Good day, everyone. How are you on this beautiful Thursday? I hope it's beautiful wherever you might be. And this is Power Hour Coaching with me, Bernadette Boas, and I am the principal coach and consultant at Ball of Fire Coaching. This is the first time you're meeting me, in case that is. Anyway, what we do in our Power Hour Coaching is really provide you tips and advice and sometimes tough love in regards to the questions and challenges you might be having within the workplace or even in your life as a whole. And you have an opportunity here, even if you happen to join in live, you can leave comments across the platforms. We're broadcasting on our Shift to Riches Today YouTube channel, on LinkedIn, on our Shift to Riches Today Facebook page, and on Twitter on Bernadette Boas. So you can always leave comments there, and I am looking across the platforms to ensure that no question is missed, all right? At the same time, I had been collecting your questions that you've been sending, and most of my questions come through, quite honestly, through LinkedIn. And we do have our Powerhouse Mavericks Facebook private group, which actually is where this whole thing started. Each and every Thursday at 1, we have a training, and now we've kind of evolved it into more coaching, because many of you will ask me what coaching is all about, what value and benefits do you get from it, how does it work? While at the same time, I sense that many of you struggle to ask for help and ask the questions and address the challenges that you're dealing with each and every day. So I wanted to give you a platform for you to seek out and find that. And so you can always join in, whether it is on our Powerhouse Mavericks Facebook group, LinkedIn, Shift to Riches Today, YouTube, and Facebook. All right. We give you a lot of opportunities to reach out and touch someone, so to speak. All right, let me summarize the questions that I have, and a couple of them I'm not even going to share with you until I discuss them, because they're hysterical, and they're questions that I've gotten before, but they're a nice, easy way to get into all of this. And then we'll dive into these questions. So Miss Curd asked me, would making a list of the things I won't miss about my apartment be a negative thing? So we'll address that. And then Will wanted to know, what are 3 tasks that will help me get to my goal? You know, I love that. And if you don't know me very well, I love everything around goal setting, time management, productivity, prioritization, all of those things. So we'll definitely touch in on that. Christiana had asked, what have you sacrificed to get where you are? Ooh, that's a loaded question, but I will share. And Kayla wants to know, I have an invention. I want to put it out. I want to get it out there. Is Shark Tank an option? Another one dear to my heart. There's a little, kind of backstory in regards to Shark Tank. So those are the questions that I have thus far. But again, if you have any questions yourself, be sure to leave them in the comment section wherever you might be watching this. I am streaming through StreamYard, and so you might see a notation that in order for me to see your name and your profile picture, that you have to give them permission to do so. And so if you care to give me your name and or profile, then be sure to do that. If you don't care to, then don't. I mean, that's okay. That's all right. We're here for you. And if that's the case, then so be it. Also, I always give an opportunity for you to actually connect directly to me while I'm in these type of live situations. So if you wanted to actually kind of get online and get on camera with me while I'm here to discuss whatever it is that you're dealing with, then leave the comment that says live coaching, and I will send you the link to where you can join me right here on StreamYard in our studio. Okay. All right. Those are all the logistics. Let's get into this. First off, let me answer a couple of fun questions that I got. One is, she happened to be watching on YouTube one of our Shedding the Bitch episodes. So if you're not familiar with me or with the programs I offer, every Tuesday at noon Eastern time is Shedding the Bitch radio and TV on YouTube and on our Shedding the Bitch Facebook page. And once a month, I'll address that next. So she must have watched me on that on my show, and she noticed that I had a particular mug, Shedding the Bitch, right? I was drinking out of it, like I need to right now, and she's like, "What did that mug say?" And I showed it to her again, and obviously it fit with the name of the show. And she's like, how would I be able to go about getting one of those? Now I used to sell them, and I could easily sell them again should anyone be interested, but I typically don't. But I will be sending her one because I just absolutely loved the question. I absolutely loved her actually reaching out and asking the question. So that was the first fun one. The second one, which actually was a great question, based on the first Tuesday of every month on our Ask Me, or on Shedding the Bitch Radio, the first Tuesday of every month is our Ask Me Anything episode. So it's very much like these coaching sessions. Now, the objective of this going live, providing you coaching, is to actually for you to experience coaching. So that's why if you do want some guidance and coaching directly from me, this is a good opportunity for you to actually be in discussion and in a coaching session with me live. On our Ask Me Anything episodes on the first Tuesday of every month, basically I'm collecting all the questions you're sending me throughout the month. And for instance, the questions you've sent me for this, I will then include in our April episode. But so people send me questions into LinkedIn, Facebook, pretty much those are the two places. And therefore I answer them throughout the month, and then I bring them to the Ask Me Anything episode on Tuesdays. Now, the question to me was, what is the difference between what was going on Tuesday and today? But also, will you be addressing the questions that were asked on Tuesday in this or any particular live Power Hour coaching session? And the answer would be, if we don't have any of you reaching out to get your own specific coaching during this session, during this hour, then I might pull some of those in. But at the same time, you can go to YouTube or Blog Talk Radio or anywhere you get your streaming podcast, and you can obviously listen and watch there. But if we have an opportunity to address those questions here in our coaching hour, then we could certainly do that. All right. But this is specifically geared to any new opportunities for you who might not know what coaching is all about, who might want to experience it, understand what, kind of the process, and then get a question or a challenge addressed. Okay. So those are the first two initial questions that I thought we would get to during this session. All right. So then Ms. Kurd asked, would making a list of the things I won't miss about my apartment be a negative thing? So obviously she and many of you might be making a major change, and change is often very uncomfortable for people, very uncomfortable for people. And they might go into a negative space. They might spiral out of control. They might, retreat. They might lash out. However they decide to project that change. There's others that love change and just kind of roll with the punches. But in this case, she's, commented after this, but I didn't necessarily share verbatim. She shared after asking this question that, she's not in a really good place. She's not in a positive place. So if that's you as well, when it comes to making changes, then there is a huge opportunity to what I call find the evidence and find the pros and the riches out of whatever change is about to come. So let's use her example first, and then I might add a couple of other examples, business related especially. So here's this personal change. this personal change about, moving from an apartment that she might love. She might have been there for a long time. She might have been able to have all of her possessions and all of her things. And now she has to, kind of give some away based on where she's going. I don't know all of those details, but you can only imagine when someone's making a change, from one house to another, from one apartment to another, from one job to another, from one relationship to another. There's a lot of things that could get shifted. So looking at the good things, looking at the future and focusing on all the good things that are coming as a result, obviously is going to be so much more productive and so much more effective in keeping you in a really good, safe, positive space than focusing on, oh, woe is me, what I'm losing, what I'm giving up, what I'm sacrificing, whatever the case might be. Even if it's to the point where, yes, maybe she's having financial struggles and she has to downsize and she has to um, have a smaller rent, let alone a smaller apartment. And so she is having to, give away stuff, and that can hurt. That can be hard. So obviously, always looking at the positive. So I really resonated with this question, and actually, it's gonna kind of go into the question about sacrifice that Christiana asked me about, and that I'll address in a minute. But um, about 5 years ago, um, I was in a very troubling space, especially financially. And I was on the verge, full disclosure, I was on the verge of losing my home. And so I had to figure out what I was going to do, because obviously that was going to change, just like for Miss Kurd, that was going to change everything about kind of my livelihood, and let alone my confidence and my pride and everything else that goes with it. And so um I I'm sitting there kind of really struggling, and a friend of mine said, I happen to have a guest house along with my main house. And a friend of mine said, you lived in hotels for months at a time. Why don't you move into your guest house and then rent your main house? So I thought to myself, well, gosh, that is true. And at the same time, to the same point I made to Miss Kurd, and what she wants to focus on is the positive things about the change. I sat there and I thought to myself, that's what I want to look at. I don't want to look at what I'm giving up. I want to look at what I'm gaining. So I all of a sudden sat down and I started making a list, because you all know I'm a journaler. So I start making a list, and I start acknowledging the fact that, yes, indeed, I need to downsize my mental state, my emotional state, my spiritual state. I need to downsize the possessions and the clutter and the noise that was around me. And if that meant also that I downsize the space, the environment that I lived in, so be it. And so, yes, I continued to focus on, okay, so what's that going to allow me to do? Well, in her case, for instance, I'll put it to her. In her case, if it is a reduction in income, sweet. Whenever she gets extra income, that's just a bonus for her. If it is the fact that maybe she is needing to downsize what's going on around her from a noise, mentality, emotion perspective, well, that could also be a beautiful, beautiful thing. If it gives her some freedoms that she doesn't have right now, awesome. And it certainly did for me. Another huge benefit for me was I was going to be able to use that rental income to support my writing and my creative um, activities without stressing over the fact that I needed to find new clients at the time, because I was writing my film script at the time. So I wanted to be able to have some freedom to not necessarily work 8 hours, 10 hours a day, and kind of apply some of that time to working on my screenplay. And in Miss Kurd's case, it could be the same thing. So yes, absolutely. If any of you are going through a change, let me give you another scenario so you can relate. Maybe it's work. Maybe you're getting a new boss. Maybe you've been moved to a new role. Maybe you've been given a new project. Maybe something's been taken away from you. Maybe something's been minimized. Maybe something's been adjusted as far as what you've been doing. Maybe you've lost your job, okay, or therefore the income, as opposed to focusing on what you've lost and what you lack and what you don't have, focusing on what that's going to allow you to do. So I'll have a lot of conversations with people, especially from a career perspective, who are struggling with the fact that they lost their job, or they've been demoted, or they've had personal performance issues at the workplace. And the one thing I'll say to them, and I'll say to any of you, is think of this as a reset. Think of this as an opportunity for you really to look at what is it that you have, what is it that you want, truly want, and what do you need to do to get there? Because all of these type of changes allow us the opportunity to say, am I really happy doing what I'm doing? Am I really happy in the job, in the apartment, in the relationship that I have? It's a great opportunity to kind of sit back and reflect. And if any of us look over the last, 20 months to 2 years, we certainly have been given that opportunity, forced, unpredictable, but that's life. That's what happens, even in the smallest of change or shift. So yes, looking at the positive, making a list, journaling, and just focusing on what doors now opened because the previous one's been shut, or look at the window, whatever the case might be. What is this giving me the opportunity to do, even if it's really scary, even if it's really painful, even if it is hitting your pride? Just consider, when you get on the other side of it, what is that going to look like? Okay, because it is a beautiful, beautiful kind of transformation that you'll experience, as hard as it is right now to feel that way. All right. Okay. All right. So the next question that Will had asked is, what 3 tasks will help me get to my goal? Well, this is really kind of a it depends. And nothing is worse or kind of grates on me than that statement. And it goes back to my consulting days. But it depends. But it does. It does depend. So I don't know a lot of the backstory for Will. But so I'm going to kind of draw some conclusions and some starting points of answering the question for him. All right. So breaking down his question, 3 tasks when it comes to getting to his goal, right? 3 tasks getting to his goal. Love things in 3, by the way. I love things in 3. And then I love the focus on him having, the focus on getting to his goal. So I would, basically with the little information I had, I personally would go at it with, what do you have in place as far as your goal is concerned? And what I mean by that is, are you using the words to get to my goal? And do you truly have a well-defined goal laid out? Now, I use with my clients the SMART goal methodology. Actually, I use the SMART-T, which is my own version. And you can always ping me and DM me to find out what that's all about. But staying on his question. So the first thing the task, one of the 3 tasks would be, get your goal down on paper if it isn't already. And use the SMART methodology, or reach out to me for the Smarty, to really ensure that you have all the elements of a very sticky, abundance attracting, and actionable goal. Because many people's goals are very general. You want to ensure that one of the not only big tasks, but big success factors in you achieving your goal is to have a very well-defined goal. All right. So then the next task after that would be that you have a action plan, a to-do, a project plan, whatever you want to call it, against that goal. What are all the things you need to do? I mean, I'm talking like all of them that you can think of right now. Because then what we want to do is once you have your goal, which also includes how you're going to measure yourself, we can then say, okay, so the actions that are relevant to these goals for right now are, these 20. All right. So, but you can't kind of sit back and just have all this in your head and think that you're going to be able to structure it in such a way that it's going to be effective for you. So you need to get it out of your head and onto a piece of paper, your smart or smarty goal, and then the whole list of action plans that go along with it. So that would be the second. And then the third I would say is to really have a system and a practice and a discipline for prioritization. So say you had that list and there was like 50 things on that list. And then I just said, okay, so I want you to focus on those things that are more immediate toward you achieving your goal. And now it's down to 20. Well, obviously you can't focus on 20. It's why most entrepreneurs, even corporate professionals, get very, very overwhelmed. Is because you're kind of like, keeping track of all the things that people, need you to do or you need to do. And then they're walking in your office or calling you and adding more to it that you never take the time to kind of sit back, look over all of them, or at least this 20, and then prioritize what is the most critical in order that and which ones are going to be immediately contributing to you achieving your goal and getting it down to like 3. I love the number 3, that you can then focus on and start acting on. Because people with their to-do lists that are, really long, get really overwhelmed, all of a sudden stuck and very frustrated, and drained and stressed out and burned out because of the fact that they're only focusing on this huge list of what they need to get done. And they're like, I have no time or energy to get any of this done. Well, I prefer you to just take that long list, have it in one place, take the 3 things off that are the most critical, most priority, and then focusing on those 3, putting aside the balance. But the prioritization process also requires you to be keen on what are the questions you need to ask yourself to successfully prioritize. I mean, I have a lot of entrepreneurial clients they'll look on their list and they'll pick the 3 things that are the easiest. Yes, they contribute to them achieving their goal, but they're the easiest ones. So I'll throw out a question to all of you is what do you think would be the number 1, 2, or 3 goal, but number 1 goal for entrepreneurs? That would be making money, right? That would be making money. And so what they need to be able to do is look at that laundry list and pick out those things that are going to make them money. Creating a website, doing social media on your own, putting together a newsletter, those type of things, they're not going to generate money for you. They could eventually, because you're connecting and engaging and prospecting. But what you want to do is prioritize those things that could bring you more immediate money. So that's going to be reaching out to cold leads and turning them warm, reaching out to the warm leads and getting them hot, reaching out to those hots, getting them on calls, or reaching out and to sell your product, and then doing all that follow up and follow through. So it's all that kind of that sales even before marketing. Now, some would argue that you won't get sales without marketing. Excuse me. But I would argue that you can actually go out with very little, if any, marketing and still sell. All right. So the point being is you really need to have a discipline and a process for how you need to prioritize that laundry list. And those 3 things, set your goals, create your action plan, and then prioritize the top 3 that contribute to your immediate goal. Those aren't as simple as they sound. I mean, I work with clients, both entrepreneurially and corporately, that have been in their business and or in their role for years, and they don't set goals. Yes, in corporate, they have their business metrics that are passed down to them. But when it comes to their specific personal and professional development goals or other goals, they don't. Excuse me. And that's what you need to focus on. All right. So those would be your 3 tasks, Will. Well, I passed that to him already, but for the rest of you, those would be your 3 tasks. And it doesn't matter if you're entrepreneurial. You could also be corporate, and this would be what I would tell you, to even from a corporate perspective, especially because the fact that a lot of the corporate professionals I work with, they don't have personal or professional development goals unless it's passed down from someone within their organization. Whereas what they really want to be doing is defining theirs. What, all this work that you're doing, all these hours you're putting in, what is it going to amount to as far as your goals and what you want to achieve in this one life that goes really, really fast. Okay. And that's a mantra that I often use with my clients as well. We have to focus on the fact that we only get one life to live and it goes really, really fast, and we want to make the most of it. Okay. All right. So, Will, I hope that is helpful. Excuse me. I'm just going to take a peek along here, just to make sure I'm not missing anyone. Okay. So our next question, Christiana. I'm sorry if I totally messed that one up, but Christiana, what have you sacrificed to get where you are? This question, it didn't take me back. Like, it didn't but I was just surprised based on the conversation we were having. I was just surprised that this all of a sudden came up for her. And I love the question. I probably don't even talk about it as often as I should, especially with the amount of, corporate individuals that are, really reevaluating what is really important to them and what they really want over, as a result of the last 2 years, as well as my entrepreneurs who really have to understand what it takes if they want to be successful, what sacrifices, even compromises, does one have to make in order to be successful. I feel very blessed. I am blessed that I've held on to my work and my business for 12 years. The average length of time someone is in business is 5. So I feel very, very, very blessed as a result of that. But it's been hard. It's been very hard. But let me just focus on the question around sacrifice and compromise. And again, you can look at this for both entrepreneurial or corporately, especially corporate if you're coming and making a decision to do something else. But even, remaining in corporate and in your role, we all work hard, and there's sacrifices and compromises that we're making. We may not pay attention to them. We may not even honor them, as I say, and coach my clients to do. But we should focus on what it is that we're giving into our roles and our work, but also what are we losing? What are we compromising on? What are we sacrificing? Again, this isn't a boo-hoo because you've made the decision to sacrifice or compromise. This is just appreciate and honor the fact that you've sacrificed or given up some things in order to get where you want to go and achieve the goals that you have for yourself and for your family. All right. So what have I sacrificed? Whoa. The list could go on forever. Well, I would say that if I looked at it sequentially from when I left corporate and started my own business, well, I'm going to even go back a little bit before that. So what I sacrificed, even in corporate and the way I operated in corporate, I sacrificed my career as a result. And if you know my backstory and my book, Shedding the Corporate Bitch, I sacrificed relationships, my mentor, my career, my income, my livelihood at the time, all because of the decisions that I made and the way I went about it. throughout my corporate career. And so I spent a great deal of time coaching clients in regards to how to prevent that and what it can mean and what the impact could be. Well, what will those sacrifices be? They won't be compromises. They will be sacrifices that are forced on you as much as you've sacrificed yourself. But that was huge. So when I left, I certainly sacrificed my pride because all of a sudden, I had to share with the world and my family that I was I was fired and I lost my career, my livelihood, and everything that it meant to me. I lost me because that I was so defined around my career at the time. But going out on my own, at first, I didn't think I'd have to give a lot of sacrifices and compromises because, I worked like a horse anyway. I was a workhorse, throughout corporate, so I wasn't going to be working any longer or shorter. Initially, when I started my business, I had a really nice nest egg as a result of my career. So I didn't think I was going to be really losing or investing or compromising financially. It was something that I wanted, and therefore I didn't look at it as a sacrifice or compromise. I said, no, I'm going to invest in whatever it takes for me to be successful. Um, I certainly sacrificed at one point when I made a business decision that cost me $150,000. And I won't go into all of that detail. You can always reach out to me if you want to learn more. But I certainly, sacrificed a couple of years, a lot of money, and a lot of kind of stability, and even some confidence and pride as a result of making this huge investment and then losing it. However, it turned out like all of these things do, all of these challenges and struggles that we have always are for a reason, and they always teach us and help us to grow. So then I would say I sacrificed not only when I moved from my guest house or from my main house into my guest house and sacrificing my livelihood around the space I lived in and all the tchotchkes that I had and all the materialistic things. But when I did that as well is I had to make decisions when I was downsizing that I had to sell my road bike, which I absolutely loved. I had to sell a lot of my possessions or give them away. When I started announcing to my friends, and I had a large group of friends slash acquaintances from a social perspective. And when I started communicating that I was, leaving corporate and I was going to be going out on my own, and this is what I was going to be doing, and this is what I'm sacrificing and compromising and giving up on, I lost a good 95% of my friends as a result. Because some people are very uncomfortable. Some people saw it as an opportunity to move on themselves. And so there was a lot of, sacrifice in regards to that. And then as I kind of moved into my business, then there was definitely sacrifices and compromises as far as that 150,000 really that loss really forced me to what I call eat peas. There was a good couple of years, 2 or 3 actually, that I really didn't know from one day to the next how I was going to keep the lights on or how I was going to not feed myself, but I basically lived on, like a $10 a week type of menu. All seriousness, it was like white rice and green beans. And since green beans doesn't really sound good, I always say peas. That's just from a cute marketing thing. But so there was a period of time where I gave up my friends, I gave up my socializing, I gave up my outside activities like my cycling and whatnot, and realized that a lot of it was because I had to, and then there was a good amount of it that I wanted to. once I started realizing the transformation that was going on within me, I really, kind of welcomed, further downsizing, further shedding, as my world is considered shedding the bitch. So there's been a lot of sacrifices along the way. Um, and I would say, those probably are the ones that are jumping out at me. And so what I would say to this question that Christiana brought up is, you definitely have to consider that if you want anything in life, forget if you're an entrepreneur and you're starting your business, or you're corporate and you're leaving corporate, or you get out of a relationship, or whatever the case might be. There's sacrifices and compromises that need to be made if you want to achieve whatever it is that you're pursuing. You're just not going to, get there by staying the same. You have to give up on things. You have to shift away from things. You have to, alter, how you've been going about things. There's always going to be sacrifices and compromises that will have to be made. So embrace it. Look for those opportunities. I'm not telling you have to do what I did, forced or not forced. I'm just saying, recognize that to get anything, there's going to be sacrifices and compromises along the way. And and a lesson that I learned that I would want to pass on is, and then proactively kind of control that. Like, proactively look around and look at all aspects of your life and your world, and make those decisions on your own, versus getting to a point where you all of a sudden are forced to. So for you entrepreneurs out there, let me give you an example of that. If all of a sudden, which many entrepreneurs do when they're starting a business, I did. I should have mentioned that. I lost $25,000 in the first 6 months by creating all this, beautiful website and glossy, marketing materials and whatnot. And 9 months, a year later, I'm changing my business name. So all that investment went right out the window. So, entrepreneurs, you have to recognize that you're going to, go out in like a shotgun type of approach, and you're going to start grabbing at things that you think you need to be doing, and you think you want, and that you have to have in order to be in your business, and in order to, even for those not entrepreneurs, to even just kind of like keep up with the Joneses, so to speak. And you're not going to, be rational and intentional and purposeful as far as all of a sudden, where do you start, spending money, or where do you start avoiding, certain people or certain things, because of the fact that you just think you need to do certain things in order to, get where you want to go. And so what I would suggest when it comes to this is control it yourself, as opposed to let it be forced on you. You don't want to get to a point where all of a sudden you're spending, or you're making changes time and time again. You're thinking that everybody can be a client when only really a small amount of people can be a client. So you've wasted a lot of time doing things out there in the social world, and yet none of it's panning out. So then all of a sudden you are forced to make sacrifices and compromises on your plans, your approach, and sometimes your goals. So for anyone, corporate, entrepreneur, stay at home, I don't care, man, woman, whatever position you're in, be intentional and purposeful about the plans that you're pursuing, and ensure that you are looking at, the good, the bad, the ugly, the now and the future, the pros and the cons, and try to anticipate and prepare yourself for the unexpected. And I know that sounds redundant or contradictory, but there's a lot of it, especially from a business perspective, that you can anticipate. I mean, obviously the pandemic you can't, or a war breaking out you can't, but there's a lot of things that especially entrepreneurs are doing, whether they're in business for a month, or I've seen it up until 10, 15 years, that, that they could have saved themselves a lot of hardship had they just kind of taken a step back and gotten very purposeful and intentional about what it is that they're doing. Okay. But there will be sacrifices and compromises you have to make along the way for anything. Okay. Kayla, the next question from Kayla. I have an invention I want to get out. I want to get out there. Is Shark Tank an option? Love this question. And obviously it is a invention equals product, because that's what they do, right? I mean, yeah, that's what they do. They have services businesses out, on Shark Tank, but again, they're wrapped around a product. So I have some history with Shark Tank. I can't even remember when it was. I would say it's 2022. I would say 10 years ago. Yes, I would say around 10 years ago, 2012. I actually went and auditioned to be on Shark Tank. Now, my full expectation was not that I would get onto Shark Tank, because I was actually leveraging my brand, Shedding the Bitch, and my books and my merchandise and my, line of alcohol. And I knew it was a Disney, owned property. So I knew that it wasn't going to be aligned, but I wanted the experience and I wanted to really understand kind of what their process was. So I think for any entrepreneur or any even corporate professional who has a side gig and maybe an invention, if you have an audition coming to town, why not? Why not? Now, before you do though, and this is what I told Kayla, before you do, you need to become a student of Shark Tank. You need to become a student of Shark Tank. Shark Tank was probably, there's a couple of things that were really instrumental to my growing my business and learning business beyond what I knew in corporate. But Shark Tank was definitely one of them. A friend of mine and he and I would, I think it was Friday nights it was on, and he and I would watch Shark Tank together via text or even phone. And we would kind of challenge each other to guess what the offers would be, what the percentage, would be, so forth and so on. So for those of you who don't know what Shark Tank is, you're pitching your product, you're pitching your product, and and basically it should be your business, not just the product. That's the one thing that you want to make sure you learn from it is they don't buy products necessarily. They want it to be a business in order for it to be investable. But the core thing about it is you need to really understand the value of your business. And therefore, what are you earning right now, but what are you valuing your business for them to then buy into it? It is a investor, angel investor type of program. So for those of you who might not have been acquainted with Shark Tank, but it is a fabulous business lesson, not only of how to pitch. That's a huge thing that you need to sit down and you need to study every one of those pitches. And what do the commentators say? What do the investors say? And what do they like? What do they not like about that pitch? And then you really need to listen in on how that person presents the offer. And then the reactions from the investors, from the sharks. And then you want to listen to and make note of every question that any one of these entrepreneurs are getting from the sharks. What specifically are the questions? And you just are taking notes. They're responding, and they're responding well or very poorly. And you need to capture the essence of, because you don't need to necessarily know how I pitched this. You just need to know or how I responded to my pitch on this. But you need to understand how I structured the pitch, how I answered the questions, the responses from the sharks, the offer that was made, the objections that were raised. You really want to become a student of Shark Tank because now, again, whether or not you get all the way to the point of presenting to a shark, you're going to want to use that same structure of a pitch when you meet the people that are actually at the auditions, because obviously there's a bunch of people in between, you and when anybody is selected to be on the TV show. So you want to also use that information for when you actually go and pitch to get onto the show. But even if, well, I would never tell anyone to go without the expectation of wanting to be on the show. I did that because I'd already known that they weren't going to accept shedding the bitch on a Disney Channel. So I went in knowing that I wanted to do this. I wanted to get in front of them. I wanted their response. I wanted to hand them kind of my package of my book. And I think I had a mug or something else. I wanted them to have it because eventually it might show up somewhere. But you definitely want to become a student of Shark Tank. And of course, if it is a product that you feel that is viable and you already have revenue generating off of it, then yeah, Shark Tank, just like any of the other. And what I told Kayla was there's tons of Shark Tank like opportunities for you in your city. I mean, there, if you're in the Midwest and out in the rural, there may not be, but there's certainly hundreds, if not thousands, of places where you could go and pitch investors in order for them to either buy your business, invest in your business, even just provide funds for you, like a loan for you around the business that you're growing, not the product you have, but the business that you're establishing. So that's what I shared with Kayla. So, and yes, of course, I didn't get accepted onto Shark Tank, but it was a great experience. And I have not only photos, but I have, a wristband that they gave you. I don't save souvenirs like that, but it was fun. It was fun. All right. I'm going to just take a look across here in case anyone had any additional questions. And if not, then I am happy to close this out. I just would not want anybody to be missed out on. And then at any point, if you have a question or a challenge that you're dealing with and you need, some guidance and some support, then be sure to, like I've said earlier, put it out on LinkedIn, send me a direct message on LinkedIn, go to Facebook, join our Powerhouse Mavericks group, and get information there, reach out to me directly there. But there's always ways to get connected with me in order for me to help you with whatever it is you might have going on. So that said, I'm just going to share with you. Well, obviously our website is balloffirecoaching.com, but if you ever just need to, have a strategy session on what it is that you're doing corporately or entrepreneurially, then feel free to book yourself a coaching session with me. I would love to help you with whatever challenge or issue that you're having. All right. So until next time, I will see you out in LinkedIn or on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube. And so I'll look forward to seeing you there. Take care, everybody. Bye.